feared and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and so jiggle my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
Hello, welcome to another edition of Chasing the Pennant, where it seems like we are more so running away from nightmares. As Philadelphia Phillies fans, I am your host tonight, Shane, and I am joined, as always, as it seems lately, with Andrew. Andrew, how you handling life right now?
In terms of life, pretty good. Coming off a nice graduation yesterday, so that was fun. But in terms of Philadelphia sports, it's a whole other story.
Not great. And it appears that local media, national media, Philadelphia Phillies insiders as a whole, members of the Philadelphia Phillies, or managing partners of the Philadelphia Phillies organization, no one knows what the hell is going on right now. The kind of news that we have had to react to, it's almost as though we've all had to sit here and practice desensitizing ourselves from the next ESPN alert and from the next Philadelphia Phillies Bleacher Report segment alert, from the next Twitter alert that comes out from any of the national baseball writers. We have to sit here and find a way to desensitize ourselves from all of this crap. How are you managing that right now? Because I know for me, for one, I've turned off every alert on my phone. I don't want to know anything anymore.
Unfortunately, I can't do that. I get too many alerts and it's just too many sports things not to keep up on. So unfortunately, I can't go that far. But in terms of this whole thing, it's just frustrating because, like, you know what you can be, but we won't be. And when I was getting ready for the show and we talked about the topics and everything, and because, I mean, we always joke around about how laughable this organization can be and everything. I did a simple search. I just typed in the word Phillies into Google to see what would come up. And you just read the headlines and it's just chaos. It's just chaos. Like one report saying, oh, Phillies trying to trade Zach Wheeler. One saying it's false. Then it's reports saying it's confirmed that they are trying to trade it. And then you get rumors that the Phillies are taking calls on, or not taking, but teams have called them about Nolan Hoskins, which to me, just reading that headline tells me around the league, we're treated now as a laughing stock as well, because teams are trying to go into that and see what we're doing. And then you read Middleton, his comments about the whole Babe Ruth thing. Oh, the report's false. Even if we were offered Babe Ruth, we wouldn't trade him, which we all know in the likelihood, if back then we were offered Babe Ruth, you'd be ridiculous not to take a trade for Babe Ruth. So it's like, how good was that comment?
Not good.
But yeah, it's funny to just take back and that's why I did it, because I wanted to see, we always talk about how we're the laughing stock, and it's like, are we exaggerating? So that's why I did that. Just nice, simple, just the word Phillies to see what would come up, and it's all these laughing stories really at this point.
It's brutal, and I think that your trajectory of emotions to go through that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 articles down here on the Philadelphia Phillies by doing a simple search of the name Phillies. It kind of sums up everything that we've all been going through, really since the end of last season, of this COVID-ridden season. Let's start with Middleton for one. Middleton seems entirely too responsive and too defensive in every time that he makes an appearance. And I feel as though this entire Philadelphia Phillies organization has just never heard of a PR team. And if they have, Middleton is apparently exempt from them. Just as you mentioned, if you're going to sit here and make a comment about the validity of a report that comes out regarding your previously signed 5-year starting pitcher who had a very good first season for you, albeit a COVID-ridden one, in Zach Wheeler, the simple and correct response to that, if you were trying to just sit there and dispute the validity of the report that came out, was to simply say, he is not on the market. We are not actively looking to trade him. That's that. But to take it to a point to confirm your idiocy, you want to tell us that one of the greatest in the history of this sport, you wouldn't move him for. You wouldn't move him for Michael Jack Schmidt. You telling me you wouldn't move him for a Mike Trout right now? Well, you couldn't because you can't afford him apparently. But theoretically, to sit here and make the kinds of comments that he does, he seems like he is in a defensively emotional state every single time. And for me, as I mentioned to you and as I mentioned to everyone in our group text, there's entirely too much smoke when it comes to Middleton and all of these panic reports about money or about selling assets that we do have. When you take a look at John Middleton, the way that he's responding to these things, do you have any confidence left in his ability as a managing partner to sit here and put the necessary pieces in that front office who are going to then take their time to put the necessary pieces onto the field for us as the Philadelphia Phillies? Do you have any confidence left right now?
Honestly, not really. Like, absolutely not at this point. And it's sad to say. And
we'll see you guys next week on another positive episode of CTP.
Right? It's frustrating to keep doing these as negatives because, like, I mean, we want to be positive. It's just nothing to be positive about right now. And I think you hit it right on the nose with that whole thing about how he's always defensive. And I think as it probably comes in his head, oh, let me say this and it'll sound great. Like, oh, we're never going to get rid of him. To me, maybe I'm reading that too much into this, but to me, when I hear something like that defensive, when you had to come up with one of the greats, if not the greatest baseball player ever, and say you wouldn't even trade him for Zach Wheeler, to me, that's just trying to come up with something to try to get past fans. And I think he's still under the impression that we are stupid fans. And I'm not getting me wrong, every fan base has their stupid fans, but the majority of the fans aren't stupid. And I think he's lost that trajectory of people are past that point. And you fooled us for the year you signed Harper and acted like you were going to try to become winners. Now we're running on 2 years now, 2 years, and you're looking at more, or you're looking, everyone's past that. Like we all realize now what this really is. And to have him keep coming out here and saying stuff, and I mean, sometimes he comes out and says something, and then McPhail comes out and says something completely different, and it seems like they're all lost at this point, and it doesn't seem like there's any way up. And I didn't even hear him speak at all today or anything about the winter meetings, but like even that, like you fired Matt Klentak in what, or he resigned in what, mid to early October, I believe it was. Correct me if I'm wrong, and you still don't have a GM. You still don't have a president in place. And winter meetings began today. Like, how laughable is that? Like, you've had 2 months at this point to come up with whether you wanted to hire a new president or not, but at least just hire a GM. And you still don't have either one. And the winter meetings, one of the most important things in the offseason, has just started today.
I don't put a whole lot of stock into the winter meeting things as much as I used to. Look at that's my alarm that said, "Hey Shane, don't forget this podcast." By the way, side story here. Both of us forgot about this podcast recording for the last several days, and as we did, more and more news came out, so we threw away the script, and this is completely just kind of off hinge, just whatever's coming to brain. So if we're a little off here, that's probably why. But to the winter meetings and to John Middleton and things like that, take it through a short timeline right now of the failures of even just simple communication from John Middleton and the failures to communicate to this fan base and to baseball. You mentioned right now we are a laughingstock, not just to the city of Philadelphia and our fans, but everywhere. Everyone who knows and loves the game of baseball looks at this organization and laughs. We had the opportunity to sign JT Realmuto before it ever got to this point, and they didn't do so. You sign a Didi Gregorius to a 1 year. You choose to not offer him a qualifying offer, and thus lose the opportunity for a draft pick. Not that you draft well, but it's a draft pick, the compensatory draft pick. That's important. It means something. You tell us we shouldn't market or prepare ourselves for a third straight offseason of a major signing. You say you shouldn't sit here and think that any free agents are going to be signed here of any significant financial value. A report comes out that says that you lost $2 billion, which would account for roughly 83% of all of baseball's losses this year, just in the city of Philadelphia, which is quickly then refuted and removed from an article. How much smoke does it take before someone says, this is a train wreck? Everything, whether it's 100% true or 100% false, something right now, or nothing could be 100% false in this particular scenario because there's so much smoke. So as we go through some of these things, let me back up for 1 second before I get into that next thing. Staying with Middleton, staying with your president and GM comment there. why the hell are we looking to sign a general manager before we sign a president of baseball operations?
Right?
Shouldn't the person who's overseeing the new face and the new look of this franchise and to come in and breed some sort of winning culture and dynamic, shouldn't that person have his opportunity to say, I'd like to not end up with the Matt Klentak. I want to bring in a guy or gal that I believe is going to see my vision, accept my vision, challenge me on that vision for continued growth, and then go out there and execute that vision. But once again, we're going for a GM first. We're out of order again. What do you make of that?
That my conspiracy theory that Matt Klentak is still in charge is real. Because like you said,
right now it is.
Why would you do that? You don't want that to happen. And
that's his new role.
That's it. But
president of operations is Klentak's new role.
You know what would be, and going off that, and you know what would be such a Phillies thing at this point, and I don't wish this upon whoever it happened. Like, I don't wish this upon anyone, but like, it would be such a Phillies thing, you know, to have Middleton come out here and hire whoever the GM is. It could be anybody in the world. And then we hire a president like 3 days later, and the president doesn't like the GM. So the president then fires the GM we just hired 3 days ago. And you're going through the whole search again because he wants, like you said, his guy.
And Middleton would just reassign him because he doesn't want to pay him to go away.
Right? So, like, I mean, again, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the Phillies. Because, like you said, they do everything backwards at this point. There seems to be no structure in anything. It doesn't seem like they put anything in chronological order or anything. It seems like they just wake up and go, you know what? What do we have to do today? We need this. We need that.
How can I piss off this fan base today?
We just need to accomplish one of the 1,000,000 things on our to-do list, whether it's the first thing or the last thing. Let's just check one thing off. And if we get one thing off the board today, it's a win. That's what I feel like they do at this point.
Look, honestly, if they ever checked anything off, I wouldn't be even remotely as angry as I am right now. I don't know what they're checking off. Caleb Cotham, like, that's it. We got a pitching coach. That's solid. That's awesome. We did tender a few names that we should all be super excited about their continued Philadelphia Phillies career. We'll get to that in a little bit. But right now, so over the last 72 hours or so, as we forgot to do this podcast not once but twice, so here we are thrice times giving it a go. A bunch of different names have kind of come up that are currently with the Philadelphia Phillies that are rumored to be potentially on the move. Now, I know this is going to sound kind of backwards, the way that we've kind of started this entire podcast. I do very much so believe that there should not be anyone in any organization in any sport that is completely non-tradable. Like, you should entertain, like, if someone was to sit there and offer the Angels, for Mike Trout, and they were going to say, hey, we're going to give you $200 million and number 1 through 11 on our organization's prospect chart, plus a major league pitcher, plus, like, at a certain point, like, take them. Thanks. Yeah. I appreciate the rebuild in one move. So I don't necessarily think that when these rumors come out that the Rhys Hoskins, the Gene Segura, the Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, even Bryce Harper in some blog reports, not actual reports for anyone that's saying that, of potential interest in Bryce there, you should pick up the phone. And you should pick up the phone simply for this. I sent you a text, Andrew, the other day of a screenshot of a report that had come out that said, the Philadelphia Phillies are essentially the first team in the modern era to commit to the tank and fail. Do you know how bad that has to be? We went from World Series champion to lost in the World Series to lost in the championship series to lost in the divisional round to out. That's amazing. The step-by-step trajectory of loss there, and then to sit there and then be at the bottom for now 10 years without the playoffs. It's unbelievable. So when you take a look at this logically and know that we don't have enough major league pieces to compete for a World Series right now, and we do not have the farm depth to compete in the immediate future, and we seemingly don't have the financial resources to fix either of those holes either, it is natural to sit here and take a look at some of these pieces and the logic behind a potential move. So let's kind of go name by name of the top 5 pieces, and we can work in some others as we go through. work the logic behind both sides of the argument of keeping someone or moving on from them, and what that means for both the immediacy of your franchise or the 2, 3, 4, 5 years out for your franchise. So let's start with the name that kind of kicked the whole thing off in Zach Wheeler. I believe that for the deal that he has signed, when you take a look at the value of that deal in terms of what today's pitchers get and how well he pitched for you in year one, it makes absolutely no sense to move him unless you're blown away. For you, what do you think, what would do it for you that you would say, you know what, I agree. If we move on from Wheeler, this is the package that I'm looking for.
Yeah, you bring up a great point there, and everything you said with not having the a guy that they say is non-tradable. Because yeah, at some point there is going to be that mark where you're like, okay, let me take that deal. I think for Zach Wheeler, it's going to have to be pieces that you're lacking, and since you're so worried about financial numbers, and you obviously have a Bryce Harper here, so you're obviously going to want to somewhat compete still, at least try to, you would hope. It'd have to be pretty close to ready now players and guys that would fit needs. So in terms of Zach Wheeler, I mean, obviously I don't think he'd ever bring in a Sixto Sanchez type, but you better bring in a guy that is pretty close to coming up in the majors from either a starter or a closer or like some type of reliever. And if it's a reliever type, I'm going to be asking for more than that too. And I'm going to ask for a guy that can either play. I mean, you have Bryce and Stott and stuff, so you're going to try to fill up maybe the outfield spot, maybe a catcher. Maybe you go to maybe the Dodgers are calling it. And, I mean, obviously they got guys for days on that team, that farm system. So maybe they're calling and they got a couple catchers, I remember, if I remember correctly reading, and they offer that. So I'd need pretty close to not all of them, but 2 or 3 ready now guys, if not already in the major league players that have shown some good signs already. If they've already been up, shown signs that they can succeed at that level. And a couple ready now prospects that are going to save you that money, but still give you a chance to compete or have maybe a surprise, not a surprise, but a guy you get have that successful season to help keep you somewhat afloat and watchable. Because let's face it, even if you're going to start doing those because of financial moves, you still have Harper and stuff. So, I mean, obviously he's going to want to compete. He didn't sign a 13-year deal to just continue losing. So unless you want to lose him, you're going to have to convince him that you got some ready now players that are going to be up and ready to go and try to help win as soon as possible. And you complain about money, and we'll see where the world's at come baseball season. But you're going to want to fill the stands. And at some point, if you're trading these guys and just having Bryce Harper, trust me, I love watching Bryce Harper. But at some point, it's going to get where the fans are like, okay, we need something. Like, we want to win. We're not going to continue just to buy tickets just to watch Bryce Harper. We've watched him. And again, nothing against Bryce Harper, but we've watched him for the last 2 years and stuff. We need guys around him to win. We don't want to just show up and pay you $50 a game just to watch one guy at this point.
And the entire division is good. The Mets right now have the richest owner in baseball. They are going to go out there and spend actual stupid money. And John Middleton can learn a thing or two. That organization is going to be insane for, possibly forever at this point, the kind of money that they're going to dump in there. And then the major league ready pieces, as well as the farm hands in the rest of the division, it's really, really good. So we're going to struggle to compete in our own division, let alone at the cream of the crop of all of baseball. One thing that has made sense, this is all across baseball, is it is so much more valuable to purchase a bat than it is to purchase a pitcher. To me, if you're actively looking to move on from a Zach Wheeler, with, by the way, is still fairly young and has many years of good pitching ahead of him, you're going to want to sit there and get a surplus of young pitching talent that you believe in. You have to develop those guys, because those are the guys that are ultimately going to end up costing you just an ass load of money in the back end. So to me, if you're moving a guy like Wheeler, if you're moving almost any of these guys, I'm pretty much getting nothing but pitching prospects. I don't need another bat anywhere. if you're moving a Wheeler, if you're moving a Nola, which again for $11 million a year for the next 3 years, like Jesus, like you better be getting the world for that guy. It's unbelievable.
You can't ask for better in, like you said, Nola and
either
Wheeler's
of those
contract.
contracts.
Like, you want to complain here and sit here about money. Like, you're not gonna find a better option with their salaries. Like, honestly, like, if we want to compliment them, we can compliment on those two deals, because in a way you're saving money for two top end rotation guys. So if you're going to trade them, good luck finding a replacement of that caliber talent for less than that if you want to actually compete.
Exactly. And that's the thing. So if you're going to truly tank, like if you were to move away from the guys that we've mentioned, thus far, if we move off of Hoskins, if we move off of Segura, Wheeler, Nola, look, even potentially Bryce, because who knows if he's going to even be willing to sit here and say, I'd like to go through a rebuild here in Philadelphia in my third year right now, or find me a new home. But any of those names, any name, pick anyone in the Phillies. If you're going to move them, you need to move them almost exclusively for pitching, because we have absolutely no pitching depth. If you can have a controllable young staff and an intriguing, young, and controllable bullpen, the amount of money you can then allocate to proven free agent bats, which are notoriously bigger hits than free agent pitching, that's the philosophy. That's the way to go. So if you're looking to move a Segura to Toronto, which he's been rumored to go to, awesome. Take a look at their top 5 pitching prospects. See what you can get. Take a look at an intriguing, bullpen piece. Take a look at how the Rays do things. Find one pitch from a pitcher that they've undervalued and sneak him into the deal. Maybe he becomes a lockdown reliever for you. You don't know. Same thing with Hoskins. I think right now we didn't even touch on this. Let's sidebar this again. We still don't know what the hell's going on with the DH. That's unbelievable. How the hell are you supposed to figure out? Not that the Phillies don't have a roster. The Phillies are fucked. But all across baseball, like, think of if we wanted to move Rhys Hoskins right now off Tommy John surgery as an infielder, or a guy who can't field his position anyway, who is a streaky hitter. But just say that we had someone lined up for him, and they were like, well, we're a National League team, and we don't know what's going on with the DH, so he's not as valuable to us right now. Yeah. Versus we are definitively committing to a universal DH. Rhys Hoskins' value has just went up.
Yeah, which I don't know if you saw this report today, but the MLB apparently, according to Ken Rosenthal, sent a memo to the league to try to build your team expecting no universal DH. I was like, how do you come out with that memo and say build your team expecting no DH? Like, that leaves the door open for a pretty good possibility probably, that there is going to still be a DH in 2021, but build it expecting not to have it. I'm like, how do you not know by now? Like, I get it, we're in the middle of a pandemic and it's tough times, but like, that's a simple rule where, like, it's not, you can't blame, like, oh, we need to figure out financial troubles and everything. Like, it's a simple rule. Like, do you want a DH or do you not? Like, whether we agree or disagree with it, like, all you got to do is call.
Which we disagree.
All you got to do is call up the 30 presidents and owners, whoever, take a vote on it, and whatever happens. Like that should be figured out by now. Again, you're 2 months into the off season, and you're 2 months away from spring training, assuming they start on time. And again, the winter meeting started today, and you're going to tell them you still don't know what the rules are. Like, that's a pretty big rule not to know by now.
That's a huge strategy rule. You're creating jobs for how many more people, how many more aging veterans who can't hold their own in the field anymore, but got a little bit of pop left. They can still do a little thing in the box. To me, it is unbelievable just how disorganized and how horrendously Major League Baseball is run, almost to the point of Bettman over there in the NHL. I mean, that guy's just asking for people to say, give up on hockey forever. Right now, Major League Baseball, not far behind. Like, they are not enjoyed. People do not enjoy Major League Baseball, and the amount of rules changes that go in have proven to not move that needle either. At a certain point, I'm with you. Let's simplify the way that we have the process of implementing a rule, whether it is liked or disliked, simply for the sake of these guys. And you mentioned it, the winter meetings, as fraudulent as they are, because almost nothing really happens that's important in the winter meetings. I lost my train of thought there. I just opened up the phone again, completely lost train of thought.
No, I see what you're saying. I see what you're
But go
saying
ahead.
because, again, whether something happens in the winter meetings or not, and I'm going to continue using our examples because it was thrown out there today. Rhys Hoskins, for example, you
Sure.
don't know, like the point of the winter meetings, whether a deal gets done, you're still going to start to kick the tire on a deal. Again, whether it gets done or not, you're going to start having
Sure.
those talks and everything. And again, like you said, if a team is really interested in a guy like Rhys Hoskins, where I mean, we all know his defensive struggles at times and everything, and you might only have 3 teams call for him because you don't know what his future is going to be, or you don't know if you're going to have that DH. And to your point, like again, how big those winter meetings are, it's still the point of starting those talks where some teams can't do it with not knowing what's at stake in the future.
Can you imagine Middleton involved in these meetings? Like just one more excuse for him to say, like, well, I can't make this decision right now. I don't know what a roster is supposed to look like in the NL in 2021 and going forward. I can't have this conversation. No, but if you want Hoskins, well, you can have him. It's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Well, let's go to some of the guys that were tendered, contracts here in Philadelphia. So, much to the chagrin of most of Philadelphia Phillies Twitter, Vince Velasquez is again coming back. Now, I mentioned we don't have pitching depth and we don't have pitching versatility really either. It is not ideal in my mind to keep yo-yoing a Vince Velasquez, clearly a very stubborn player in his own right. He believes that he can compete at a starter's level. It just hasn't put it all together yet. But to be continued to be the piece he's basically 5A/6. Like he's your long man. He can also high leverage for you occasionally, and then he's going to be your first guy into the rotation if one of the first 5 don't, or get hurt or shuffled out or anything. I am of the opinion. Now, I am not a Vince Velasquez fan as a pitcher. I think he's an interesting human being. He's a great athlete. That's the most positive I can say on him. He has not been given a legitimate shot in today's baseball with a manager to go to him and say, Vince, you are not a starting pitcher. We want you to commit 100% of your energy and preparedness to becoming a lockdown late inning reliever. Something this organization has lacked for years at this point is a full back into the bullpen that can really close out games for you. We want you to commit to that. We want you to work with Andrew Knapp and Caleb Cotham. And we want you to start to build that repertoire and challenge yourself on these 2 pitches. Go. He hasn't been given that opportunity. If he is given that opportunity, do you believe that there is a ceiling there that is something that of a valuable 6th, 7th, or 8th inning arm in Vince Velasquez for the long haul for the Phillies, and that this 1-year tenured option to him is going to actually benefit the organization in any way?
Yes, I do think, to answer your question, if you were to this offseason to sit him down and tell him, listen, you've been a starter for the last whatever amount of years between our organization and the Astros, and it has just not worked out. You put your whole ability this offseason, these next few months, and the entirety of spring training to becoming a back-end piece. You look at the way the MLB is constructed today, and the late-in relievers, they are the high-velocity pitchers with 1 or 2 pitches mixed in, and the guys that just are able to blow people by with the fastball and stuff. And the Phillies do not have that. We even when we slightly did, we gave them all away anyway. I mean, whether you were a Ken Giles fan, Jake Diekman fan, like those were your
I love Diekman.
I loved him too, but those were your high-powered 100-mile-per-hour throwers, and you gave them away. So now you're sitting here with a guy that, again, he's not hitting 100, but he's a higher velocity type pitcher.
But he could. Imagine if he prepared an entire. These guys who start and throw 6. Well, he doesn't, but theoretically throw 6 innings, 6+ innings. Like you can't go up there and throw 103 miles an hour. Like maybe you could touch every single pitch out there. Who's to know what this guy could do pitching every other night, 20 pitches or 45 if you're him.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. That's a good point too. I didn't think of it that way, like because you build yourself for those 2 innings or whatever. So that's a good point there. And based off what we've seen, I mean, his velocity as long as he's healthy, is up there and stuff. And unfortunately, and that's maybe where hopefully you kind of see that from Joe Girardi this year. Because if there's a guy, you talk about not having the manager, I mean, he's got to be the guy. Like Joe Girardi's been in the business forever. He's a
He's got to want to quit too.
Yeah, right?
Imagine you want this donkey of a roster.
He probably signed up for this. Like, okay, I already got Bryce Harper, I got JT, I got Nola. Let me just put a couple more pieces together, and I can have a winning team. And then they did him as bad as they did Bryce Harper, and it's just
amazing.
It's unbelievable at this point, like how badly constructed this is, and to sit here and see Vince, and again, unfortunately, I don't think it's that way. And we were texting about this when they did first tender him and everything, and you were talking about how he is a necessity to this team because of him because of the team not having that depth. I'm sitting here saying, listen, and unfortunately, again, this is me being pessimistic again on here, but to me, this tells me don't expect anything big this offseason, free agency wise. We were hoping for maybe taking a chance on a Corey Kluber, taking a chance on some other mediocre pitcher just to fulfill the rotation. This tells me right here they're saving money, and he's going to be back in the starting rotation. I truly believe that. Instead of going out taking a chance on a guy, you're looking at Nola, Wheeler, Eflin, Howard, and maybe Velasquez.
How philosophically incorrect is that? It continued to be proven I cannot hang for 33 starts a season Vince Velasquez in a rotation. Versus saying, let's challenge him to do the thing that we haven't allowed him the opportunity to do. You are strictly a bullpen arm. You will not be the sixth guy who comes in the event of an injury. We will call up literally anybody else in that, if that were to happen, when that happens, because it is Major League Baseball. It's unbelievable. Go out and sign it, just like you mentioned, anyone, almost anyone. I don't want another Vargas signing.
But we'll bring back Bartolo because he hasn't played in a little bit, and he'll probably take $1 million deal because he still hasn't retired. So we'll
big sexy's all there.
Yeah,
that's it, man. He'll come back. He'll be slim sexy. he'll lost 65 pounds or something. No, and I think exactly as you said it is accurate. I would not expect, based on moves like that, anything too sexy this offseason. The one thing that I can possibly in my brain start to wrap around is when you take a look at a Gene Segura's deal. I think he's making $15 million a year, $12 million a year, something like that. If you're looking to get out of, I think it's just this year that he has on his contract. It's either this year or 2 years that he has on the contract. But if you're looking to get out of that year or 2 years and that $12 to $24 million, maybe that allows you the financial freedom to go and get Didi Gregorius, to get an Andrelton Simmons, like something meaningful in the middle of the infield and find some stability. Maybe it allows you some financial flexibility and freedom to go ahead and go out there and get JT, though at this point, I don't know why the hell JT would pick up the phone for John Middleton,
right,
or JT's agent. But that's what some of these moves or potential moves and discussions at the winter meetings, those are the implications that it could have. We're going to shed this salary. We are this financially, strapped, but we could still make a sexy move out of it because we were able to alleviate ourselves of some of that. Now, I don't know who the hell's taking on Gene Segura and taking the entirety of that financial contract at all, unless we're trading him for literally nothing. I just don't see it happening.
That's why when I saw the Blue Jays were interested, I did not get that at all. Like, they have one of the best young infields in the game. Like, and I'm a Gene Segura guy. It just doesn't seem like
they're all in on a second baseman. I don't know why.
I guess they're giving up on. I mean, pretty early to give up on Biggio already, but he had 1 year. Obviously, the top prospect, and you already know the other side of the infield's already stacked.
They just drafted 4 guys.
Yeah. So honestly, Gene Segura to Toronto, as much as it seems like it's pretty real in discussion, like that was one I was trying to wrap my head around because it just did not make much sense. But no, and I'm a Gene Segura guy, and it's. At this point, I understand he's making $14 million a year. At this point, he's a free agent in 2023, so you do have a couple years left with him.
So he is too.
At this point, yeah, I mean he's a guy that you can try to get rid of. You probably have to eat a little bit of that contract, and you're still open up some type of money. And I don't know. Unfortunately, what are they going to spend though at this point? Like, as we mentioned, the tender deals show you're not going to spend much. They were afraid to offer Didi Gregorius a qualifying offer because they were afraid he was going to accept
Maybe he'll
it.
accept.
Oh no, this guy can't. One of the better shortstops coming off a good year can't accept our 1 year qualifying offer. Like, and the worst part about that is, side rant, like that would have been the perfect 1 year deal because we all know Bryce's
Bridge to
stats.
stop.
Yeah, he's right around the corner. All he needs is probably another year. You had a guy here, a great shortstop. It's not like you're wasting the year with a bad shortstop for that year. A great shortstop had a great year.
And a fan favorite.
Yeah, fan favorite, team favorite, a guy Joe Girardi's been managing for a while now. This like it couldn't have been a better fit, and you were like, nope, we can't have him accept that deal. But
Nope.
Going back to Segura, like that would open up money, obviously, and then hopefully you would sign that. But like you said, one, why is JT gonna answer that, or his agent gonna answer that? And two, do we even trust them to spend the money they'd open up at this point? Like, say a team didn't even eat Segura's contract. Say you just traded for nothing, like you said, and you opened up 15 million or 14 million. Do you even have confidence that they would be like, okay, let's call JT and offer him that 14? Because at this point, I don't. Like,
I don't. Look, I could understand that it could be one way that our local media could spin it and say, hey, look, it's not going to be the sexiest of off seasons, but they've freed up some money. They're going to make a move or several moves, like middle of the road moves, nothing overly game changing, but competent talent out there, which the Phillies have not always had during the last 10 years of Philadelphia Phillies baseball. It would be okay. I don't want to see the Brandon Workmans out there, mercifully no longer here. To me, we've gone through such a long period of time of watching incompetent baseball in the city, and we just deserve better. The people, not the organization. The organization's a piece of shit, but the people and fans of this city, we stick by things so hard. We believe in processes harder than any other city in America. We are all about the gimmicks of a prospect coming in here. We fall in love with damn near anybody. We fell in love with Mickey Moniak. I still love Mickey Moniak because he's got a cool name. He's not a good baseball player, but we believed hard in him. That's the kind of city that we are right now. Give us just a little bit. Give us something to believe in.
Right, that's where we're at. Like when we joke around in our messages, whether it's our group chat or us or whatever, whether it's the Phillies or Sixers or whatever. Like the other day when I was sending the numbers thing, we're joking around about all the process year guys that like we fell in love with, because that's how sad it was at that point, where these are like these guys that wouldn't even touch the court with other teams, and that goes with the Phillies too at this point. Like, I mean, you think about it and look at some of the guys we fell in love with these last few years. They're guys that, if you put them on a postseason team, they're not going to touch the field. Like, and I hate to be like it sounds rude to be like that to those guys, but like, let's face it, like you're looking at guys. I mean, we talk about through our chat who we've loved, like the Cameron Rupps of the world, the Tyler Goodells of the world and stuff, and
Pedro Florimo.
Like these guys, like they're fun to watch because they're giving it their all, obviously, because they know that if they're gonna make a statement in this league, it's got to be with a team like this, and we're falling in love with those guys because of the blue blood, quote unquote blue blood type
blue collar
effort, the effort they're putting out there and everything, and that's what we want to see, is that effort when you're bad. It's like, and that's what they're doing. So we fall in love with these guys when in reality they're not anything special, and that's, you saw that, and with the Phil Gosselin story this year. Like, don't get me wrong, as cool as that story is, and as great as that story was, the hometown guy, whatever, jumping out to a successful year. Are you going to tell me, like, if he was on the Dodgers or the Rays or a team like that, is he going to get that many pitch hit opportunities? Unfortunately not.
He stinks. No.
Like, and that's where we're at right now. And you're looking for that guy to fall in love with, because that's all we have. And to your point, like, it's not going to be different this year, because, again, there's guys, and you look at the tenured guys, like the bullpen. What's going to be different with the bullpen next year? You're bringing back, and I like it, I'm a Neris guy, but you're bringing back Hector Neris. You're bringing back David Hale out of all people. He's coming back as well. You signed Sir Anthony Dominguez, who I think he has potential, but you signed him to an extension. He's not going to see the field this year because you messed up his surgery debacle in that sense, where he maybe been out at the beginning of the year if you did it right, but you waited till the end of the year to have his Tommy John surgery, so he's already gone, and you're already filling these guys up with the same roster you had last year, so it's going to be pretty similar. And then today, I forget who it was, but they claimed the guy off waivers from Seattle, but like, again, you're claiming a guy off waivers. There's just going to be another guy. You're hoping
every pitcher we've gotten from Seattle becomes phenomenal. Looking at you, Philippe Mont.
Right. That's yeah. We're gonna go down the roads of why this team hasn't had any talent in 10 years. Is look at the guys we've got back in trades.
Oh, it's atrocious.
It's so sad.
And you know what's even worse too? Like obviously the talent that we take in trades like that just hurts. Like they're just not good players often. At least in the last like 10 years. But if you take a look at even throughout the time where we were truly a powerhouse in Major League Baseball, no one the Phillies trade turns out to be freaking anything. And Carlos Carrasco, that's it. That is like the only piece that, and Sixto Sanchez now, is the only one that has kind of been thrown out there, or the only two, I should say, over the last like 2 decades who amounted to anything. That's impossible. A buddy of mine went through, so he had a short-lived podcast, and I really wish he would bring it back. It was phenomenal. It's called Turning Two. He had went through the last 25 years of Philadelphia Phillies #1 overall picks. Let me tell you, I have never been more depressed and laughed out loud in sadness than I did listening to that podcast rant. 25 years of #1 picks. Chase Utley. Cole Hamels too, but that's essentially it. It's embarrassing.
Yeah,
We've talked a lot of negative stuff. So let's. And by the way, we are always still trying to stick true to this like 24 to like 35-minute pod. We're at 41 minutes now, and we've pretty much given you a lot of reasons to go jump off the Ben Franklin. Please don't do that, by the way. Sixer season around the corner and better times are ahead. But we've talked a lot of negative things for 41 minutes. Let's just and be honest. If you don't have anything, because I don't have anything. What do you have any reason for optimism right now? Do you think there's a shot in the dark that all of this smoke that I see that is just crap is going to turn out to be day 3 or 4 of the winter meetings, and Middleton has completely just brought the house in, and Didi's back, and JT's signed, and he said, "Fuck it, I'm going for Trevor Bauer too." All of this was crap. Haha, I'm the king of Philadelphia again. Is there any reason for optimism and a potential like that?
Unfortunately not. I'm just going to
see you next week on the Chasing the Pennant podcast. When we talk about 76ers basketball.
Right. At least they started. I think it was 17 days for their first game or preseason game. But unfortunately, I mean, like you said, I'm going to be honest with this, and there's no reason to believe that they're going to go wake up tomorrow and be like, let's go all in on Bauer. Let's go all in on JT again. Let's go all in on whatever other big-time free agent, Marcelo Ozuna or something like that. But at this point, you're looking at a lot of question marks. We don't know who's running the organization. They don't know who's running the organization at this point. So from the free agency standpoint, no. I think there's some optimism for next year in terms of you kind of hopefully get that spark from Alec Boehm playing a full year, getting a whole spring training under his belt, getting a whole a full season with Harper, having the connection of batting with each other in the order. You saw some optimism from Hoskins towards the end of the year instead of an end of year. Saw him turn things around a little bit, so maybe that gives him some confidence back. Goes into spring training, get that turned around, get some of the power back as well. Hey, Andrew Knapp had a career year. Maybe he's obviously not going to bat.
Catcher Andrew Knapp.
He's not going to bat as well as he did last year, obviously, because that's going to be tough to beat. But maybe he's, half that good, which is half better than what he was in that horrible year too. And you get a great fielding, or I don't know about great, but a good fielding catcher that can balance well with that offense and kind of just get those hits periodically and still provide behind the plate. Because his fielding's not bad. I think we all agree with that. And he's a good game caller, so maybe that happens. And listen, again, we don't know the truth of the rumors, but you still got a top 2 pitching rotation there, and Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, and then maybe Howard turns into what he's supposed to be, and you have a solid rotation. So in terms of the guys that are here, yeah, there's some optimism in that, and maybe hopefully getting something going. But again, free agency, I think we all have to be skeptical about that until we see otherwise to believe. For agencies, yeah, there's not much optimism in that route.
So 46 minutes by the time that you conclude listening to this of pretty negative stuff here. we're going to continue to put out episodes as rumors come out. Andrew and I will come back on, possibly some of the other guys as well. I know Biscuit's been meaning to get back on the mic as well. But we're gonna react to a lot of these rumors, and hopefully we can begin speaking a little bit more positively. Both of us, we obviously we love Philadelphia Phillies baseball, and if you're listening to this show, you do too. Or you are an emotional masochist, which is nothing wrong with that. We are too. But for the most part, these are going to be reaction things where, holy crap, it's just going to be tough to get through. So thanks for bearing with us. Hopefully we have a quality move to talk about in the next week or two as the winter meetings take off. But for Andrew, I am Shane of the Chasing Independent podcast, only the Chasing Independent podcast. It's the only podcast I do now, right? No. We have a new podcast. It's called the Gentleman Podcast. I'm hosting this with a person who has never podcasted before. His name is Josh, and he's phenomenal. I'm going to provide the link to that show. The first show drops on 15th of December, and it'll come out the 1st and 15th of every single month. It is a show about everything, a show about nothing. It is a show about how to stand out in a world that is trying to make us all exactly the same. It's a non-sports related podcast, so if you want to listen to us talk about finances, if you want to listen to us talk about sex and relationships, food, cooking, passions, how to interview, how to conduct yourself, how to dress, anything, you're going to hear our stories and the things that have worked for us and the things that have not worked for us and the things that we've learned from it. So far, it's been hilarious to attempt to make. What other shows do you have?
So every Tuesday and Thursday during baseball season, right now, mainly in the off season, we're every Tuesday. I do a baseball show on Pub Sports Radio at 5:15 Central Time is live, where you can check out the podcast version as well on their website or Apple Podcast. Me and my brothers got one called Philly_Sports Now is the Twitter, and it's just Philly Sports Now is the podcast as well. We do all Philadelphia sports from Eagles, Phillies, Sixers, Flyers, which, again, just like the Phillies, that's been tough with the Eagles season. So, welcome to hear any rants on that one as well. And then with our co-host here with us here at Chase Independent with Joe Boric, I do True_Philly Sport as well.
And crew over here at CTP, we all have various different podcasts and writing adventures that we go through. So be sure to keep up with us on our Twitter accounts, our personal accounts as well. But again, for Andrew, I am Shane, Chasing Independent Podcast. We will see you guys next week.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such jig over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.